welcome to Spiritual Happy Hour. Shh. Shh. Why?
Spiritual Happy Hour.
We are here for your viewing pleasure. So, Spiritual Happy Hour is loosely based or inspired by A Course in Miracles, sometimes referred to as ACIM. We also use the word God, just as a little warning, and sometimes we use love instead of God, and sometimes we use Barbara because God is everything. And I just really want to thank the master Randy Luna, who played in the opening today. His music just opens my heart. He just to make sure you realize that the world has never heard what he just played because he channels the music, and he is. Adironda calls him a master Randy Luna. And speaking of Adironda, we will have a message from Adironda later on today, and we'll see what they have to say about everything. But without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Joy.
Well, before you do that,
Okay?
do you think that God thought you were a good idea, Marilyn?
Most of the time, yes.
Well, do you think that everybody out there realizes that God thought they were a good idea?
You know, I don't know what everyone out there thinks. I don't know.
Well, I think they do, or they wouldn't be listening to us right now.
What? What did you say?
Well, and the fact that they're sitting here watching us tells me that they also probably, whether they realize it or not, they're a miracle worker. And if you want to know more about, I spoke about miracle workers in Happy Hour, Spiritual Happy Hour #1. You can check it out. It's called Help Wanted Miracle Workers. But, you know, I think that most of us, myself included, are pretty lazy.
I don't think you're lazy at all. I know I can be very lazy.
I think we all get pretty lazy, and I think it could be because we could so easily be achieving so much more with our life if we had a more disciplined mind. And we're just not working miracles like we could be. Would you agree with that?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
And also, the reason I use the word is because we get, I get hung up on words, but we get so hung up on words. Like we learn in our work that, people get really hung up on the word God or Jesus. That's why we make that introduction. And what I learned, I'm going to tell a little story, but I learned that people get really hung up on the word discipline. That it triggers people.
Me included.
So I apologize in advance if I trigger you. Just try to stick with me on this one. We can all agree we've heard these amazing stories about Jesus. He was a miracle worker, and he said more than once, you can do all of this and so much more. I know when I hear that or I read about that, a little voice in my head says, yeah, but he was Jesus, for Christ's sake. I meant that literally. Jesus also said, I am no different than you. The difference is that I have much less than you. So what did he mean by that? He meant that he had less emotional baggage. He was mentally disciplined. He controlled his mind. He controlled his thoughts. He knew exactly how powerful his thoughts were and that they created things. Look at what he did. He fed crowds on a couple of loaves of bread and a few fish. He turned water to wine. That probably could come in pretty handy. He rose the dead. He did my favorite thing. He walked on water. That still kind of blows my mind, although quantum physics does prove that it is possible. It's only our BS, our belief systems, that make us think we can't. I find myself sometimes sitting in church or within my spiritual communities and my friends, and I do my daily meditations. I read lots of spiritual books. I take classes. I'm sure a lot like many of you, and I love, 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 love to talk about this stuff. But recently, I felt really stuck, which was a surprise to even me because I teach people how to get unstuck. You see, I wasn't being true to me. I wasn't keeping my promises to myself. I had promised to write. I had promised to do Facebook, but I didn't follow through. My team really, really wanted me to launch a new program, and I just couldn't get myself to move forward. And I'm sure all of you have felt like that at different times. I mean, I had plenty of excuses. I told myself, I'm just too busy. I'm way too busy right now. So fast forward a couple months down the road, and I'm having dinner with some friends, and we're discussing life coaching programs. And I had mentioned that I had hired a coach who told me to find a mentor in the areas of the life that I wanted to improve, and to choose somebody that would make me feel a bit nervous to ask. I told them I chose my brother. My brother's a billionaire. He's very successful businessman, and we had a falling out years ago over that business that he runs now. I hadn't really spoken to my brother for years, but he obviously knew some things that I didn't. And so I called him up and I asked him to mentor me. At first he was really quiet, and I thought, uh-oh. But then I realized he was really touched. We literally had an instant healing right then and there. I mean, that's what you would call a miracle. One thing he said to me is, you have to quit thinking about what you're stuck on. For me, it was a certain dollar amount in our business. And he said, and you got to think bigger. Like you just have to fly over the top of that goal. And he challenged me to think more in terms of 4 times the amount of money that I was making, the number that I was stuck on. And then he began to share with me something that I was totally unaware of. He told me that he had been on the brink of bankruptcy about the time that he and I had had our falling out, and his wife had left him, and that he was facing a layoff of thousands of his employees, including many, many family members, if he couldn't get a bank loan. And it was Christmas time. So he started going to banks. He went to one bank, then he went to 2 banks, and they both said no. He went to 3 banks, he went to 5 banks, 25 banks, 75 banks. They all turned him down. 85 banks later, he got his loan. I mean, think about that for a second. Had he stopped at bank number 84, no billions. He did it because he wanted to help the people that were working for him. He really wanted to serve them. He did not want to lay them off. It was Christmas time. In his mind, he thought, I really want to help these people. He wasn't thinking, I want to make billions of dollars. So my friend at dinner that I was telling this story was really touched by this story. He said, yeah, mental toughness. You got to get over yourself. You got to do what it takes. You got to believe, and you got to take action. Most of us, we don't have that kind of mental toughness. I mean, 85 banks, that's a lot. We get stuck, and then we want to hang on to what blocks us. For example, I hear people say all the time, I don't like that word discipline or God or Jesus. It triggers too much in me. And then we hang on to that belief. My friend began to tell me at dinner that night that this program he was doing was called 75 Hard, and it's definitely called that for a reason. The subtitle is A Tactical Guide to Winning the War with Yourself. Now, stick with me on this. I don't typically use words like the war with yourself either, but try to see it another way. It's about mental toughness, mental discipline. It's about not letting your ego control you. And it's really about unlocking or unblocking your true potential. And 75 Hard is a program that's like a blueprint that promised if you follow it 100%, and I do mean 100%, 0 compromises, your life would never be the same. So here's the requirements. For 75 Hard, and if you missed even one small piece of it, you had to start over again. First of all, every morning you read 10 pages of a self-help book. Every day you drink 1 gallon of water throughout the day, and you promise to follow some kind of a healthy eating plan. Then you also take a selfie of yourself in your exercise clothes, and no cheat meals, no alcohol, And you also work out 2 times per day, 45 minutes each, and get this, one has to be outside. The author, Andy Frisella, states very clearly, this is not a diet, it's not an exercise program. This is about making a commitment to yourself and following through under all conditions. It's designed to be hard, even when you're triggered or blocked, and you do it for 75 days. I listened intently as my friend told me about this, and I said, I'm in. I didn't really know why I was in. I wasn't looking to lose weight. It wouldn't hurt to be in better shape. But something about the promise to myself was what appealed to me. So I bought the book and I read it in 1 3-hour sitting. I made a plan for my eating and exercise routine, and I launched into the program the very next day. I was so excited. I began to share with people what I was doing, and I got the most interesting responses. And I learned quickly that just the idea of this challenge triggered people. I mean, it might even be triggering you right now, and if it is, feel free to share your comments in the comment box. Very few people that I shared this with listened and simply responded neutrally. Most took it very personally, as if I was saying, you should do this. By the time I was finished describing it, about half, 50%, did the same thing I did. They said, I'm in. I'm doing this. I need this discipline in my life. One person asked me why I wanted to do it, and I thought about it. And I made up a bunch of reasons, none of which appeased him or me, really. His perspective was, you're already successful, you don't need to lose weight, and you're the most fit 60-year-old I know, thank you. And while I was flattered, he really got me thinking about my why. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that it went back to this thing about not following through on my promises to myself. Can you relate to that? It was about being out of integrity with me. It was about lacking mental toughness, lacking mental discipline. A few of my friends made up their own version of the 75-day challenge, which I thought was kind of interesting. Another person said to me, you're just setting yourself up for failure, and then quickly added, I'm already happy. I thought about that one too. Did she think I was suggesting she should do it? Was I doing it to be happy? I'm a pretty happy person. No, I was doing it to grow, to get out of my comfort zone, to prove to myself that I could keep my promises to me, to get unstuck, and to launch my programs. The best answer I got was from Carl, my sweetie. He just looked at me and smiled and said, how can I support you? So I began, and I failed. Usually it was just one little thing. I forgot to take the selfie, or I didn't finish my water, or I couldn't get outside for the second workout and I did it inside. But I continued and I started over several times, and I went for 126 days, and finally I called it a success in my mind. So why am I telling you this story? Because in this quest for a disciplined mind, or if you prefer a trained mind, this process of 75 Hard began to reveal amazing things in my immediate world, outer world, that were changing. I got fit really fast, probably the most fit I had been since I was 30. Carl and I began walking together daily and created a special pocket of time that we both really cherished. And I got really focused because I had to fit these things into my day. I felt really good about myself, and I saw major successes on a daily basis. But because of the daily reading, I chose to dive even deeper into the mind training, and I began to study ascetic monks, ascetic Buddhists, who give up everything and wander the planet praying. And I learned from these Buddhists that, like Jesus, in their simplification, they learned to observe their thoughts. As it says in A Course in Miracles, there's no such thing as a neutral thought. There is only love. You see, this is the release of mental baggage. Remember, Jesus said, I'm no different than you. The difference is that I have much less than you. He meant emotional baggage. He's talking about love. He's talking about understanding that there are no neutral thoughts. It's either love or fear, and fear is emotional baggage. Did you know, according to the National Science Foundation, that 80% of your thoughts are negative? Fear-based, not love, therefore not even real. They're just an illusion your mind is making up. And 95% of your thoughts are on autopilot. You're not even consciously aware of having them. Did you know that the cells of your body actually become addicted to the thoughts that you have the most? So your body is actually addicted to those 80% of your thoughts. The truth is, it's time to get back to basics and get over ourselves, me included. Mental discipline, it's what Buddha taught, it's what Jesus taught, and it's what A Course in Miracles teaches. It's the blueprint for how the universe works, and it works 110% in your favor when you have a disciplined or a trained mind. So God sent Jesus just like God sent you. You are a child of God. Or if you prefer, you're a child of love. And because God thought you were a good idea. So how do you train your mind? I'm sure you might be wondering, how can I start? Use our bracelet. We have these bracelets, these stretchy bracelets. You can see right here. You see Marilyn and I use them all the time. You'll never find us without one. Basically, every time you have a negative thought, you just pull that bracelet off and put it on the other wrist. And this makes you become really aware of how often you have a negative thought. And it starts to teach you to be aware of your thoughts so that you can choose a different thought. You can use 75 hard if you want, or a version thereof. Just do something to create change, to get out of your comfort zone. That's really the key. You can even type into the comments box right now what you think you're going to do. Commit to it right now. Make a commitment to do something, anything that allows you to be in integrity with yourself. In fact, let's do together, real quick before Marilyn comes back, a little meditation together. Dear God, we ask for a miracle. We ask for a shift in our thinking so that we can serve you in the way that you would have us serve you. We ask for you to open our mind, help us to become disciplined, work with us as we work on training our mind so that we too can become a miracle worker for the world. We are so grateful that you thought we were a good idea. And we are so grateful to be here on the planet today because we know there's only love. There's no such thing as a neutral thought, and so it is.
So, mental discipline, eh? I love it. I'll practice that, okay?
Okay.
You have such great ideas. I love, God does think that we're a good idea.
I think so too.
I think so too. And we just get the opportunity to believe that. And while you're thinking about that, we're going to take a little intermission. And then Randy, the master Randy Luna, is going to play during that intermission. And then we're going to come back and see really what Adironda and the Council of Light thinks about that. If you've never encountered Adironda and the Council of Light, I'm a channel. I'm a divine link, as they call me. And we bring in messages from the 17th dimension. So after a few minutes, we'll be back.
So it is good day to you. It is so good to see your light, your brightness, your divine presence. Good day to you, good day to you, good day to you, good day to each of you. For you see, in this multidimensional world, we know that you are a good idea. We know that you are also a miracle worker. We know that you are here on this planet for a very specific reason. Now, you may not realize that, and that is all right. What we say is, as you are going through your life and living one way or another, every time you feel a little unsettled, ask yourself, what is that truly about? That is a part of that mental discipline, as the Joeaux says. What is happening? Because the source of all that is creates no mistakes. There are no errors in your creation. You are dropped into the correct family. You are dropped into the correct life. And it is up to you to shift the consciousness within yourself and evolve in order to move forward from that. Now, we've told a little story before, years ago, but we're going to tell it to you again. It is all about a friend of ours who we love dearly, who took a large group of people to India. And they were traveling around India. And India is not the easiest place to travel around in because there's people everywhere and cows everywhere and it's very hot. And one of the people on this group fell ill and had to be taken to the hospital. She was in the hospital her entire 3-week time that she was in India, because she fell ill at the very first of the trip and spent through the next 3 weeks, as everyone else was traveling around India, in the hospital. Now in India, they greet always with namaste. Namaste, the orderlies, the nurses, the people that are there, they greet you always. Namaste. And she may not hear very well because she says, I know, no mistakes, no mistakes. So she interpreted namaste as no mistakes. Therefore, she knew that because her trip to India was spent in the hospital, that there was still no mistake there. Just as there is no mistake with you. You are a being of light, and with that energy, you are creating the uniqueness of you. And the source of all that is thought that was a really good idea to bring you here, and you volunteered to bring you here at this point in time for this magnanimous shift of this planet, for this energy as it is coming through. For you see, it does take a certain strength of character sometimes to move into this and to move through this world. And you may say, well, how in the world do you develop that much strength of character? Well, did you hear the joy? That is exactly what she is talking about. Mental discipline. Whether you do it the 75 hard way or just the 75 way, we would ask you to pick 5 things that you do not normally do and count the days off. And for the next 75 days, we would ask you to do them. They could be anything. You make up the rules. Or you can do the 75 hard with Andy Frisella. But you make up the rules. And as you do make up the rules, that energy, as it is coming through, is moving through you. Now, you write 5 lessons of gratitude, 5 things of gratitude before breakfast every morning. Maybe you work out for 20 minutes or 45 minutes twice a day. We don't know. Maybe you speak to every single person you encounter. We do not know. What we do know is that mental training, that acknowledging the creative aspect of your own mind shifts the consciousness of you, which therefore it shifts the consciousness of those that are around you, which therefore it shifts the consciousness of those that are around those that you shifted in the first place. You see, the world is evolving right here, right now, before your very eyes. That is where we are, where you are as humans. Dearly beloveds, there has been much talk of me today. I would like more. For you see, you do have the strength of character in the depths of your soul that you did not even know existed. For with that strength, that inner strength of character, that inner courage, you can accomplish anything for many more than 75 days. You see, as I have said before, we are the same. That is why I was created the same as you were created. That is why my DNA is human, as your DNA is human. I ask you to stretch yourself, to go beyond where you thought it was possible, to go beyond where that existence of you has been in the past. For as you know, dearly beloveds, the past does not exist any longer. The only moment that exists is this moment, right now. And you were a good idea. You still are a good idea. And that idea is much more than you thought in the beginning. As you sit and think of your 5 things, as Adirondha suggested, I would ask you to have one of those 5 things be a prayer of gratitude. A prayer of gratitude for your existence on this planet. And ask a question, a desire for guidance for your day that you are living in at that moment. That is all I ask. For I love you deeply. Always. Hoo-ha. Well, you never know what is going to happen here, eh? For those of you whom we've never encountered before, surprise, even the masters come in on the masters, huh? Oh, just know who you are, dearest. Know the light that is within you. Know the energy that is coming to you and through you. Know that frequency is your own uniqueness. Dearest beings of light, we love you deeply. We see you. We know you. We are you. And we bid you namaste. No mistakes, just namaste.